You push a heavy kitchen drawer a little too fast, and a sudden, violent slam jolts your silverware, shattering the room's peace. When you encounter a drawer that catches itself and glides to a quiet stop, you might assume there is a simple rubber bumper or a thick foam pad glued to the back, absorbing the hit. This diagram compares the velocity of different closing systems. People often confuse soft close with self-close. A self-close system uses a basic spring to pull the drawer inward, but it still permits a harsh, abrupt stop. Soft close forces a steady, controlled deceleration. The technology that makes this deceleration possible was never intended for drawers at all. It was developed by hardware engineers in Austria in the early 2000s. Their target was the swinging vertical motion of cabinet doors. They wanted a tiny mechanism to stop hinges from banging shut. By taking that tiny hinge damper and forcing it onto a heavy, horizontal sliding plane, a feature once reserved for custom cabinetry became a new standard for the modern home. To understand why that adaptation matters, we have to look at the physical act of a human pulling a drawer open. Woodworkers and installers note a specific trade-off. Soft-close drawers require noticeably more physical effort to pull open than traditional free-sliding boxes. This graph plots the physical force your hand exerts. The flat low line represents a traditional drawer. The line with the sharp initial spike represents the manual effort required to stretch internal springs and reset the dampening mechanism every time you pull the handle. We accept a daily physical tax of increased friction in exchange for the quiet of a controlled close. To see where that friction comes from, we have to step down into the dark metallic tunnel of the slide rail itself. For the first 90% of the drawer's closing journey, it's just rolling along a track on ball bearings. The mechanical sequence only triggers during the last 2 inches, or about 6 centimeters of travel, the moment a hidden latch engages. This diagram shows the core of the system, a microscopic hydraulic damper containing a piston resting against a dense silicone fluid. When the latch trips, tension springs engage, pulling the drawer inward. Simultaneously, the piston pushes back, compressing the fluid to absorb the kinetic energy. The silence in your kitchen is the auditory result of a perfectly balanced wrestling match between kinetic pulling and fluid dynamic pushing. But relying on highly sensitive fluid mechanics creates a problem the moment you move out of a laboratory and into a working home. Pristine fluid mechanics have an enemy. Microscopic debris, like fine dust or ambient sawdust, can coat the oiled metal and eventually jam the delicate cylinders. This vulnerability has led to different engineering approaches. Some manufacturers leave the mechanisms bulky and exposed to prevent jamming, while others bury them deep inside rails mounted underneath the drawer. Hiding these slides underneath the box means the drawer itself must be built to exact millimeter specifications. If the wooden dimensions vary by even a fraction, the slides will bind and the mechanism will fail. To utilize this hardware, modern cabinet shops have shifted toward higher precision, replacing the forgiving gaps of traditional carpentry with the tolerances of industrial engineering. When we observe a cabinet system over decades of use, the real consequence of this precision becomes clear. Every time a traditional drawer slams, kinetic shock transfers straight into the wooden joints, the hinges, and the drawer stops. This stress distribution model shows the contrast. On the left, kinetic force concentrates at the joints upon impact. On the right, that energy is diverted through the fluid, shifting the burden of the stop away from the wood and onto the hardware. By neutralizing thousands of daily impacts, the dampening effect prevents the gradual loosening of screws and the stress cracks that can develop in wooden frames over time. You don't need to rebuild your kitchen to get this protection. You can start with a traditional wooden drawer in an older cabinet. Achieving this fluid dynamic protection does not require tearing out your existing rails or buying new precision-engineered boxes. The same silicone Silinove spring technology has been miniaturized. You can purchase standalone add-on brackets that screw into existing cabinet frames to catch old drawers. The next time a drawer closes in total silence, it represents a perfectly balanced battle of fluid physics playing out right beneath your fingertips, proving the everyday world is full of engineered wonder.